Hello, my fellow people of the plant. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Cannabinoid Connect podcast, your favorite podcast that includes industry-facing conversations with the industry's leading experts that aim to educate and inform the public regarding the plant's endless benefits. My guest today is Tony Schwartz. He's the Director of Strategic Partnerships at Balanced Health Botanicals. Hey, Tony, what's going on?
Hey, good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for making time for me in the audience today. You mentioned it was a nice day out. Where are you at?
So Denver is home for me and for Balanced Health Botanicals. But yeah, we're lucky that we get 300 days of sunshine, and it hasn't let up in the last week or so. So it's a beautiful summer day out here.
Awesome, man. That's good to hear. And yeah, you mentioned Balanced Health Botanicals, and I was thinking about the last time that your company you guys were on, and that was episode 47 with the CEO Chase. I want to butcher his last name, Terwilliger, I think is how
You
you
got
say
it.
it. There you
You
go,
got it.
Terwilliger. There you go.
Yeah.
And we had a great conversation. It was really more industry focused. Talked about the past, present, and future of the CBD and wellness space, importance of CBD legislation and other things. But since we have you on, Tony, why don't we just kind of set the stage and tell the audience about about yourself, your background, how you got into cannabis, and then give us kind of an overview of the company Balanced Health Botanicals.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks again for having me. I'm excited to be on.
Of
So
course.
I'm originally from Illinois and grew up and went to high school and college and grad school out there. I graduated from Illinois State with an MBA in organizational development and international marketing. And shortly after, and that was in 2011. And shortly after that, I moved to Colorado. And my background has historically not been in cannabis or CBD or any cannabinoids in general. I worked on within large scale media organizations like the Stars Networks, PBS, NBC, Universal, and largely worked in client facing business development roles. And just really looking at ways and creative ways to help these businesses grow and optimize their contracts. So it was very sort of business forward and business focused. But meanwhile, while I was doing all of these things, I was exploring more of my own relationship with cannabis, with plants, and just generally with my diet, and looking at different ways that I could, benefit myself through food choices and other plant-based remedy choices. And I have to say that over the last 10 years of kind of going through that journey, so to speak, it's been incredibly positive. And I've found ways to, address my own symptoms of stress and anxiety and difficulty sleeping, even, deeper therapeutic use cases of different plants and different plant medicines. And so I was actually coming off of a stint at NBC, and I saw that Balanced Health Botanicals was hiring. And
To stop you there, Tony, I would just to kind of piggyback on what you're saying, I could imagine like how cannabis, as you were starting to explore and learn more about the plant and other, plant alternative remedies and alternatives, that cannabis was something that was huge for stress, especially in your position where, you're having those meetings at that kind of level at stars, at these, cable network companies or these media companies. I mean, that's got to be stressful in itself. I mean, I've gotten a little taste of it interning at NBC, but I would imagine that helped.
it did. You're absolutely right. And I was in the lucky position of being in a state that went, medicinal. Medicinal marijuana was legalized, and then shortly thereafter, recreationally, Colorado had, went through legalization process, which has been hugely beneficial, not just for, my own personal well-being, but also for the state in terms of routing tax dollars into things like public school development and infrastructure projects and things like that. So I was also in that lucky position of being in, sort of a ground zero for a state that was really pioneering the idea of legalization, and not just the idea of it, but really putting that into action. And so I felt lucky in that way. And to your point, I mean, these large corporate entities that I was working under were extremely amazing opportunities. And I really was given a lot of opportunities for my own professional development that probably, was lucky to have mentors that brought me into situations and scenarios and business environments that really at that stage of my career, I didn't have a lot of, you know, uh, reason to be sitting in those rooms or on those calls. So it was a great professional development experience. It was also high stress, these high stress environments to your point. So
Right.
um,
And
when the
alcohol, like, would be one kind of, alternative, that you wake up with hangovers, you're feeling sluggish. I mean, it's not as ideal as something like cannabis, where it's more clean and more relief based.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've never understood the hair of the dog approach. It's never worked for me. I think some people, that's not at all how I can, that's not a remedy for success for me. I mean, but you're right. The more plant-based approach has always worked, better for me. So when this opportunity came to join Balanced Health Botanicals, and join them as a director of strategic partnerships, I found, I told myself it wasn't an accident. I mean, I've been exploring plant-based remedies for a while just on my own, and the opportunity to come on board felt like it came at the right time. And it's been 2 years, and we've just done so much at this company. And it was for me, what gives me so much, I guess, reassurance is seeing how intentional the executive team and every member of the team within the product development process really prioritizes the end user, and those individuals who are trying to arrive at some form of remedy or arrive at some form of relief, and the intention that's built into the process. I mean, this isn't a company. This is a company that really, again, prioritizes just quality, consistency, and transparency.
Yeah.
And those are values that I really, that resonate for me.
And I would imagine that those values are embedded, in a state like Colorado, because to your point, I mean, they're a pioneer, or or one of the pioneers in the industry when it comes to the states that have legalized. It was the first to go legal, right? Even before California. So um, that's awesome. So, tell us a little bit about Balanced Health Botanicals, and just kind of lay down the foundation of what y'all do, what your mission driven purpose is, and then we'll get into some of the exciting announcements that's come around recently.
Yeah, yeah. So Balanced Health Botanicals is the parent company of the flagship CBD brand CBDistillery, which was founded in 2016 by a group of Coloradans who really took note of the fact that in the CBD space at that point in time, that affordable access to high quality products was not really the way that the market was going. It was expensive. It was just financially cumbersome to get these products that were showing early signs of efficacy into the hands of people that need them most. And what they did was, built a business model around streamlining, the supply chain all the way into the product development process and the distribution process, such that customers were able to get a high quality product at an attainable price point. Um, and then, furthermore, what they did was took a step forward in terms of publishing lab results for consumers to be able to have readily accessible lab reports on all of their products that are in market today. So, QR codes are a hot thing. Have been a thing that have really kind of grown in popularity within restaurants and other things now, right, from COVID. But what these founders did initially was published a QR code on every single product that was available for purchase, or that was purchased by an individual, and that QR code routes them directly into lab reports, which shows them the exact quantity of CBD, and also shows them what's not in their products, like
Yeah.
heavy metals or other harmful chemicals or things that are not supposed to be in these products, and showing and really embodying this value of again, quality and transparency.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's so important, and it's so great to see that, Balanced Health Botanicals was ahead of that, like so early on, that they knew that transparency was important. The consumer needed to know what was actually in the product, because you're kind of seeing that now as being a best practice that companies follow, just because there is so much snake oil out there, or products that contain little to no CBD at all, or so that just kind of shows that you really were, or the company itself was really focused on that transparency and that high quality effort.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, these products are also serving as a potential substitute for other products that might have, less than desirable side effects. And so I think when by putting out information that shows consumers and just the general population that these are this is a plant-based product, for our tinctures mixed with MCT oil, that is a about as clean of a product as you can hope for in this space. And also to your, you kind of said it perfectly, is that now you're seeing companies really realize that customers want to know and have that peace of mind that they're putting something of high quality and sort of cleanliness into their bodies to arrive at whatever their desired outcome is. And that's one of the reasons I think why CBDistillery is now at this point has served over 2 million customers in the United States. The customer base that we have today is just extremely loyal, highly participative in our brand. Things like our ambassador program, where people are signing up to tell family and friends like that they love these products, they've been using these products, and they've found them to be efficacious for them. Little things like surveying and polling. Our customers are like itching at the opportunity to provide feedback back to the company and back to the brand. And so, I'd be remiss not to also mention that Balanced Health Botanicals owns and operates a topical skincare lineup of products called BOTA. At botaskin.com, you can see the lineup that includes, eye serums, body lotions, body creams, more of a spa. I would call it like more of a topical lineup of products that's focused on that kind of, sort of spa experience, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and going back to that notion of the appetite for transparency among the consumer, which is rampant. I mean, it's evident that it's out there. It's almost like the seasoned consumers are even taking that a step further, and they now want to kind of understand the effects in which the cannabinoids that are contained in those products, how they're affecting their body chemistry, how they're interacting with their receptors, and dosing, right? Like how much should they be taking and how frequently they should be taking these products. And I know that CBDistillery recently partnered with a tracking app that's focused on basically tracking just that, like CBD and cannabis use. So why don't you talk a little bit about that partnership and what it means and for the company?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. People, even the more seasoned users, people want to know more information around how this benefits them. And I think too often in today's world, we do look for that immediate gratification, and we hope something solves for whatever we're trying to solve for on an immediate basis. And I think there is something to be said about sort of bringing some intention into the process, and also some reflection into the process, whether it's, with working out or reading or, journaling or what have you, but just taking stock of what you're doing and what the effects are that it's having on you. And, you mentioned the partnership that we formed with Relief. These guys are incredibly talented researchers and data service providers based out of the DC area. And basically how that whole thing came up was, we were looking at different ways, because like I mentioned, we poll our customers, we ask our customers a lot of questions around how, products are working for specific symptoms. And that's great. But I think we also wanted to take it a step further and look at more qualitative consumer facing research studies that would help us, better understand how well these products are performing for specific ailments. So I had discovered the Relief app, honestly, just on the App Store. And I looked more into it, and it was really well reviewed, and had quite a few reviews. And at that point, the team at Relief was really focused on cannabis, and THC products. Their origin story is really interesting. And I don't want to butcher this too much, but my understanding is that the founder of the Relief app, his mother was toying around with the idea of using marijuana to help address some of her own issues with anxiety. And because she had a uber talented son who can whip together a mobile application for her in no time, decided to do just that. And
Wow.
that eventually became the Relief app. And they, partner specifically within dispensaries and other more regionally, kind of more regional brands. But when we started the conversation, we just were really well aligned around this idea of equipping the industry and industry stakeholders with information relative to symptoms and specific products. They had the research backbone to help us coordinate, coordinate multiple studies, and we had a huge community of CBD enthusiasts who were eager to share that experience. And so it was really a winning combination from the start. And what we're doing this year is we're putting together 8 qualitative research studies that use a variety of different CBDistillery products, and essentially looking at how well these products perform for individuals experiencing symptoms of stress, anxiety, pain, physical discomfort, symptoms of arthritis, difficulty focusing, productivity. And we're really designing these studies with our partners at Relief towards this end goal of, certainly developing more information on a product level and more insights on a product level, but also using this data to then aggregate it into the hands of researchers at a higher education level that are putting together more formalized research to help advance the industry as a whole and support the social acceptance of CBD and cannabinoid products.
Yeah, that's an amazing program, and I think it's worth noting to the audience, especially those listening who maybe aren't familiar with the current CBD products landscape. But as we talked about and touched on a little bit earlier, there's a large flood of just, it's the Wild West, and there's a flood of products that again have either contain little to no CBD, they contain harmful chemicals, and so a lot of the experiences at the kind of average level of consumer where they're just buying it randomly online or something, they're not good experiences because there's no CBD in these products, or there's little of it. So that they're becoming detractors, but the appetite here for this type of information sharing and this knowledge is so high, because when people do try these products, they're like, oh, well, I get it. Okay, yes, this does work. It actually does do something. So I think it's really great work that y'all are doing, and the partnership seems to be a great fit.
Yeah, thank you. It's been honestly a perfect match of uh, uh, just generally, I would say, priorities between Relief and CBDistillery. So that's been great. I think also worth mentioning too, as it relates to the studies, is that, look, it's not lost on us that we're coming off of a pandemic. Many millions of Americans have lost jobs. And things are looking, economic recovery is looking like it's bouncing back, which is fantastic news for not just our industry, but generally, our country.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but part of what we wanted to do with these studies too is also remove price as a barrier for people to trying these products, and then providing us information about their use case. So, we're providing all these products for free, and we're looking at 500 participants per study. So that's 4,000 participants in total for all these studies. All of them will get free products. All of them get incentives on the back end if they complete to a certain percentage.
And what does that recruitment process look like for those 4,000 participants?
Yeah, we've been using a variety of different partnerships that have been, super beneficial for us in terms of recruitment. First of all, both Relief and CBDistillery are co-owning the recruitment process, which is again, shout out to Relief for their commitment to providing value to the partnership in that way, because they really have gone above and beyond in terms of tapping nonprofits, university partners, different B2B partnerships that they have in place. They've been willing to tap those to say, hey, here's an opportunity to join this study, and it's been successful.
Mm-hmm.
On our side, of course, we use a variety of different marketing channels: email, social media, our ambassador program, our affiliates. And we've been in the lucky position to have a few really, really valuable partners that have come to the table with, putting, the press announcement, the press release out on the website, on their website, and driving people into the recruitment process. So we've really kind of opened up these first two to anyone who has interacted with, the press release or a published article on these studies, to welcome them into the study. And I think what we're also looking at for, because eight studies is a fair amount to work with. And so I think we're starting from general population and starting to narrow down into more specific groups. Like an example of that is we polled our customers. There's about between 1,000 and 1,500 of our customers. This has been 6 or 8 months ago. And we asked them what recreational hobbies they participate in most. And those the top two hobbies were cycling and running. And
were they multiple choice questions, or was it like fill in anything you want?
Anything you want.
Okay.
So it was like select all that applies. So we had things like hiking, camping, basketball, tennis, golf, kayaking. We had a variety of different, you can never capture them all, but
yeah.
So we put that, and they were mostly through the lens of like recreational sports. So I would say it was more of like, what among you who are living an active lifestyle, what are these hobbies, sports, recreational activities that you're participating in? So we're thinking about ideas like, how can we recruit 500 cyclists into a study that looks at how well CBD performs for physical recovery, pain mitigation, even maybe anxiety mitigation. So we're looking at qualifying our recruitment pool a little bit more in the future, which I think will be really interesting because we know our customers are there doing those activities. So what better way to communicate back to them by saying, hey, we conducted a research study among 500 cyclists and, had these positive results. I think it just helps us and helps us kind of, speak to our customers, and speak the language that, that they speak to. But also we can look at more focused ways of recruiting. So, looking at other partnerships with publishers or bicycling groups or even races to say, would your community be interested in receiving a free product by participating in these studies? And then I think one of the most valuable aspects of, collaborating with Relief and CBDistillery on these studies is that, we essentially are going to serve as aggregators of these insights and data and this data back into the hands of our partners, no matter who they are or how they operate. So, essentially it's like, help us recruit some participants for this study, maybe focused on cyclists. And you can be a partner in this collaboration that, may ultimately help us advance research on pain mitigation through your participation, and so that's the really exciting piece. These first two, we open it up pretty broad. But we are in the lucky position as a brand and as a partner to Relief where, we have partners that were willing to really jump in with us and help us recruit. And so, credit to them as well on jumping in with us.
Yeah, no, that also sounds like really, informative, actionable data that we can use as an industry. And you touched on, some of the ways in which you'll use the data. Of course, one, to inform your own marketing and messaging strategies when approaching niche audiences, right, within the CBD market. But then also you said, the potential to help kind of move the needle overall in the science and medical field when it comes to these different ailments and how the cannabinoids can help address those ailments. Is there any other ways in which you would think about utilizing this data, which seems to be very comprehensive, right?
Yeah, no, thank you for that question, because when we started to unpack all the use cases for this data and where it would have utility, I think we just kept uncovering more and more opportunities. Like, for example, CB Distillery is widely distributed into independent retailers as well as mass retailers, and we really pride ourselves as a company on our ability to support our retail partners with really great information as it relates to our products. Um, and I think we can go even above and beyond the call of duty and say, here is additional data that we have that supports specific products that retailers are carrying. And whether that means developing, retail-based education, that's in store, or just simply helping educate and train, retail workers that can then pass that information along to consumers who are interested in these products. So I think the retail space is a huge one for us. And then frankly, I think, um, new customers are joining and are choosing CB Distillery every single day. And I think that by having added information that even further advances the efficacy of these products through research-based methods, helps people feel more comfortable with the idea of choosing CB Distillery among the many other brands that are available in the industry. Um, so I think that it's a way for us to communicate to our existing consumers and helping them feel even more affirmed in their choice of CB Distillery. And I also think that the new folks that are joining and that are looking at CBD as an alternative to maybe medication or other supplements or things that they're taking, I think that this data also has utility for them too. And then, you already mentioned it, but the ability and the opportunity to aggregate this data into the hands of IRB approved studies, that potential is here. So we have the potential to support IRB approved formal research studies that are happening within higher education institutions through this partnership. And that value can't be, it's extreme. It's one of the most important value added, components of this partnership with Relief, is the idea that this data can support research goals and corroborate research happening within more formal environments. And we're already seeing some traction in that area, and that's again thanks to Relief and their partnerships within higher education settings. They run this community called the Better Together community, which is essentially a group of stakeholders that have an interest in seeing advancement of research in cannabinoid products as well as marijuana products, and aggregating data that's being collected either through Relief or through these brand partnerships that they run, into the hands of researchers, which they then can say yes or no. This has utility for us in our project. So that's I know you mentioned it, but that is really what what we're hoping to accomplish. And also, I think one of the this helps advance the industry as a whole. And certainly by having CB Distillery's brand name attached to these research studies, if they are picked up in more formal environments, or if they do get widespread coverage through press, certainly having CB Distillery's name attached to these helps. But also just on its face, at a higher level, these these studies are aimed at improving and advancing the industry as a whole.
Yeah. No, that's a great goal to have. I mean, if we all win, CB Distillery wins, and vice versa, right? I mean, because it's all industry facing information and knowledge that is desperately needed right now. So I don't know if you mentioned how far along y'all are in these studies, but have there been any interesting research findings that you'd care to share right now, or is it still too soon?
Yeah, we've been so we have 2 studies that are live right now, 2 studies that are in the design phase, and then 4 additional studies that we're looking at for Q4 of this year. And those latter, the last four are really, we're looking at those as opportunities to potentially work with some of those partnerships, and identify other collaborators who may have an interest in looking at how CBD is efficacious, or how CBD's use case within, their own customer base. So an example of that is looking at, meditation apps. Meditation apps are a great way for people to be grounded, great way for people to reduce stress, reduce anxiety, come back into their bodies a little bit. What would happen if we partnered with a meditation app, and conducted a study on anxiety relief, and how could that benefit, that community of users of the app, as well as bring them in, welcome into the fold of CBDistillery. That's one example of how those latter four are sort of being looked at. But our first two studies, one is looking at stress mitigation using our broad spectrum and isolate tincture product, and another one is looking at sleep health and quality of sleep using the extra strength CBN and CBD tincture. Relief has communicated back to us that initial results of this, we have about 40% of data still to be collected, so that's worth saying. But with the data that we have now, what we're noticing is that overall sleep quality has improved between 15 and 35% for people who are taking the CBN tincture. And that's based on a rating of 1 to 10. How would you rate your overall quality of sleep? But we go even more granular into that. We look at number of hours slept each night. So we ask them each morning, how many hours did you sleep last night? And generally what we're seeing is an increase in the number of hours.
Wow.
Every night. We also were concerned about people that have difficulty staying asleep. We want to produce and provide a product to the masses that allows people to not only fall asleep easily, but stay asleep and achieve a more complete night's sleep. And what we're noticing is that early data is suggesting that people are staying asleep longer and waking up less times per night when they are taking the CBN tincture. And that's, again, those are early, kind of insight, but it's definitely encouraging.
Is there any comparison data that the Relief app allows, like, for instance, to compare their experience taking something like melatonin compared to, like, CBN tincture, like you mentioned? Because I know that there's been some people that have said they've taken melatonin, all their adult life, and then they've tried CBN and they've switched, right? So is there any kind of discussions or comparison data from that?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, because the way the CBN study is structured is that the first week that these participants are enrolled, they're answering a baseline set of questions about how many hours per night they sleep, how they would rate their sleep, number of times they wake up, and they are told, do not use the product during these first 7 days. And then for the last 3 weeks, they are asked to use the product and then answer the exact same set of questions. So we have a benchmark, and then we also have a benchmark without the product, and then answers with the product, and survey or study responses with use of the product.
Gotcha.
We are definitely, and comparison data around, especially melatonin is a great example where what we could do with a future study is take melatonin on its own, and then maybe take our broad spectrum sleep gummy that also has melatonin, and say, does this product, which contains broad spectrum CBD, perform better for people looking for sleep help than does just melatonin on its own? And we could use it as an opportunity to either recruit people who are willing to tell us that they're taking melatonin within a qualifying set of questions, and that's sort of how these studies are designed, is that individuals go through a qualifier, and if they meet the qualifications, they then are passed along into an enrollment process.
So it's like it's a vetting process, kind of, is what it sounds like.
Exactly. Yeah. So in that vetting process, we could say, do you use melatonin? And if they say yes, we could say, okay, you're in this study. If they say no, we can say, thank you for your time, but we'll keep you in mind for future studies, which is what we're doing today. I mean, we've had over we've had thousands of submissions through the qualifier process, and have about 800 participants enrolled in these first two studies, 400 and 400 approximately. But we've had somewhere between 4,000 and 6,000 submissions. So we have a big group of folks who are interested in participating in a study, but they may not necessarily have qualified for the first two.
Right, right.
So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, during that qualifying or vetting process, that would be interesting data to look at, like the comparison data, right? Because even I know there's some people like first off, you don't know what you don't know, right? And there's some people that have probably never even considered or even heard of CBN as a sleep remedy. And then the second is maybe they heard from somebody else that it didn't work because again, going back to the point of this the snake oil that's out there. So and people are trying different remedies. They're trying melatonin, they're trying ZQuil, they're trying even NyQuil, right? And so to kind of put that out and just kind of go toe to toe with each of those alternatives up against CBN, which is a naturally occurring cannabinoid within our body chemistry and in the plant. I mean, that would be huge.
yeah, it definitely would be. And right now we're sort of looking at it. And to your point, I mean, you're absolutely right. The people are still getting comfortable with the idea of what CBD is and what it is not. When part of my role at Balanced Health Botanicals is running our affiliate program, which is essentially partnerships with publishers who are interested in putting out content that's educational in nature and also in part of the consumer purchasing process of researching, CBDistillery reviews, CBDistillery product, grades, different CBD oils and or products for specific ailments. And, we still run into issues with partners who we're really excited about partnering with in the publisher space, but that are sort of saying, we're not quite ready yet. We're not quite ready for partnerships in the CBD space, which I ultimately respect. I do think there is some conflation between what CBD is versus what a marijuana product is or
Sure.
a THC product is. And it's interesting to say that as, we're having this conversation on your podcast where, specifically meant towards education and advancement of just that social acceptance and growth of consciousness of what CBD or cannabinoid products are. And it's interesting because even like family members or friends will once people have heard, oh, you work for a CBD company, they have a million questions. Will it get me high? Will I, are there any negative side effects? What products do you recommend? These are things that
Will I pass a drug test if I try it? Like, yeah.
exactly, and so I do think, like to your point, it's kind of I'm excited more than anything about the opportunity to do more studies. We're going to be doing a CBG study this year. We're going to be doing, topical studies this year, which I think is also something that we haven't seen a lot of. A lot of research, looks at strictly at ingestibles, but we're going to be looking at topicals as well. But it's exciting more than anything to look at studies focused on CBN and CBG as well as definitely CBD. But that's sort of colored by this other larger context where the general population is still kind of not totally sure what these things are, how they're, how they can benefit from them or benefit from taking them. And that's why I think, you see brands like us really pivot more towards benefit forward messaging where, on our website today, you can, if you, let's say you're having difficulty sleeping, we have a landing page that is specific for CBD products for sleep or cannabinoid products for sleep. Because, when you have over 100 SKUs available on a website and people come to that website and they know they're feeling a certain way and they want to feel not that way, it's overwhelming, admittedly, to try to sift through what's all out there. What's CBG versus CBD? How are those two things
Right.
different? And so I think what you're seeing, especially from us, is we're trying to get more focused on speaking the language of just the general population around like CBD for pain relief or CBD for physical relief. Looking at more benefit forward sort of messaging points so that it makes more sense because to your point, people are still wrestling with the idea of what CBD is, let alone CBN, CBG, and others.
Yeah, we're living in a fascinating and weird time because for the past 100 years, the pause button has been hit, right, within cannabis and hemp cultivation and the learnings of it, and so it's like we're relearning what we've done in the past, and we're learning more because of technology and how science advances and things like that. So it's just fascinating, and I myself, to your point, like CBD for athletic recovery or inflammation. Like I'm just starting to get in the habit of like utilizing this medicine in that way, right? Like if I'm feeling high anxiety or stressed before a podcast or something, I'll take a CBD gummy, and kind of calm down the nerves because sometimes if I smoke right before, I'm not in a really good headspace or I'm too high with the psychoactive properties. So there's a way that you can balance all this stuff out, and it just takes education. It takes studies like what y'all are doing, which is great. And I look forward to the two others that you mentioned, the CBG and the what was the other one, the CBN study, or was it
Yeah, so
something? Yeah.
we're doing a CBG study, and then we're also going to be looking at a study that's broadly focused on pain. But I think what we're hoping to do with that is look at either topical products' ability to address
Oh, that's right, topicals, right.
pain, or we're also looking at specific sort of recruitment pools, like recruiting, people who are cyclists or runners or golfers or tennis players or basketball players, and not necessarily. I mean, look, it'd be great to recruit the both teams of the NBA Finals or something for a study, but like we're also not necessarily we are in every person's brand, and I think that's what we want to sort of pride ourselves on is by like look, this is an approachable subject. We're not going to make you feel insignificant or uninformed or anything else for by coming to CB Distillery. I think the brand lends itself to an approachability, and so like it'd be great to recruit some NBA players, but also we just want to recruit people that are maybe playing in the men's rec league basketball, league for,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like that is the vast majority, if not all of our customers are just, these,
Regular people, yeah.
yeah, regular people that are living a certain lifestyle and, looking for some support, living that lifestyle and really like, I talk about this internally all the time where I feel like, CBD is sort of or these products, the CB Distillery product catalog, I think serves more as like a portal into what it is that you want to ultimately be doing. I mean, these are gateways into playing a double header in your men's, recreational basketball league, or, running 5 miles or 1 mile if that's where you're at. That's what these are about, and that's what everyday regular people who are just trying, even like this last weekend I spent a lot of time with my niece and my sister and her partner, and we, parents are experiencing an inordinate amount of stress and have, especially
Right.
parents of kids that are in school. I mean, like that's who these products are for, and we want to build these studies and this partnership around the in our recruitment pool around the very people that are buying from us, that are supporting the brand, and ultimately the people that are benefiting from the products. Because you start to aim too high and go after premium athletes or something like that, you lose out on so many of the people that you actually speak to on a day-to-day basis.
Right, your actual consumer base, exactly. You're kind of missing your audience at that point, and
Yeah.
so it makes total sense. Tony, I really appreciate it. I know that the industry appreciates the work that Balanced Health Botanicals is doing in terms of your studies. Very exciting stuff coming up, like you mentioned, CBG and topical studies. So we'll be sure to look out for that. Where can people find more information, like your website and social media, if they want to learn more?
Yeah, definitely follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We're always putting out more information and opportunities to participate in these studies. On Instagram, it's at CBDistillery _. You'll see we're a verified listing there, and on Facebook. So, follow us on socials for sure. We'll be putting out another press release that will promote these studies. And yeah, we just appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk a little bit about it. We're excited about these, and podcasts like these are a great way for us to just talk through what the intention is, what our goals are, and also get the word out a little bit more. So thanks so much for the airtime and the opportunity to have the conversation. I appreciate it.
Of course, yeah, we'll have to do it again once those studies come out, and that's exactly what you did today. You helped inform people as to what y'all's mission is and what you're trying to do for the overall industry. So, thanks again, Tony, and look forward to having you on again real soon.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, and thank you all for listening. Bye.